You never broke them. You just sharpened the sword that now slices through your ego. Now imagine this for a moment, chosen one. They thought they buried you in silence, surrounded by lies, hoping your light would fade in isolation. But what they didn't see was that while they were dancing in your supposed downfall, the universe was writing your comeback in gold ink. And now, something massive has happened. The same people who treated your presence like a disposable option are now breaking down behind closed doors, not because you fought back, but because you stopped showing up. They're not just crying, they're crumbling. Here's a fact for you. Studies have shown that people feel more intense emotional pain from losing access to someone they took for granted than they do from failing a goal. Why? Because humans don't mourn the truth while they have it. They mourn it only when it walks away, silently, powerfully, and permanently. And that's what's killing them now. You didn't throw shade. You became the eclipse. You didn't shout your worth. You let your absence teach the lesson, and it hit like a cold wind through a locked door. They can't escape it, and they can't unfeel it. And thank you, chosen one. Don't forget to pay this message back by simply pressing the like and subscribe buttons. Help spread this message to more souls, because it's the responsibility of all of us to spread the light. And thank you again for being part of this mission. You are not just watching this, you are part of a force. Now let's get to it. See, what just happened isn't minor. This isn't about petty payback or someone feeling a little bad after mistreating you. This is about a spiritual power shift so intense it shook the foundation of every lie they told themselves about you. For the first time, they're seeing the full picture. And it's not what they imagined. You were never the fragile one. You were the thread holding the whole thing together. And now that you've pulled yourself out of their space, the unraveling has begun. They told themselves stories to justify the way they treated you. She's too sensitive. He's too much. They'll never leave. But now, with you gone and unbothered, those stories are collapsing, and what's left behind is a mirror, and it's not flattering. The image they see now isn't one of power or pride. It's one of regret, shame, and deep emotional drought, because they realize something. They didn't just lose you. They lost the version of themselves that was only strong when standing on your back. And while they cry behind closed doors, they'll never admit it in public. No, they'll post like nothing's wrong, laugh louder, smile wider, pretend like they're fine. But at night, it's a different story. At night, the silence gets heavy, the memories get loud, and that ego they built like armor starts to rust, because you weren't just a phase. You were the proof of everything they lacked the courage to become. And now that you're no longer available to absorb their chaos, they're finally being introduced to their real self, and they hate the view. That's why they're crying. Not just because they lost you, but because they finally realized they were the villain in their own story. This is what the universe does when it's done being mocked. It doesn't scream. It doesn't clap back. It removes the chosen one and lets the absence preach. You were the calm in their storm, the steady in their chaos, the mirror that reflected back what they refused to face. And now that the mirror is gone, so is the illusion. And that is what just happened. They're not just sad. They're spiraling. Not just guilty. They're exposed, not just crying. They're breaking in ways they swore would never touch them. So don't you dare second-guess your worth. Don't you dare feel guilty for walking away, because what's happening right now is not a coincidence. It's the consequence of underestimating someone chosen by the universe, not for revenge, but for truth. They thought you were finished. But the universe had other plans. Now, the very doors they slammed on you are slamming on their own fingers. The very silence they used to manipulate you is now suffocating them. Chosen One, your glow-up didn't just happen. It hit them where it hurt the most. Right in the illusion of control. They're crying behind closed doors. And the tears aren't for what they did. They're for what they lost and can never get back. Stay tuned, because this isn't the end. It's only the beginning of the exposure. So, are you really ready to uncover the truth behind the breakdowns they're hiding in silence? Because what you're about to hear next will not only confirm your power, but explain why they're losing sleep while pretending everything's fine. Drop a 777 in the comments if you've ever walked away silently and watched the whole building shake without lifting a finger. And if this message has already hit home, consider fueling this movement by tapping that super thanks, because every share, like, and small gift helps this truth reach another chosen one who's still doubting their impact. Whether it's a penny or a powerful prayer, everything counts. You're not just watching this, you're a living part of a shift they never saw coming. So stick with me, don't click off, because this isn't just content, it's confirmation. And the next part, it's where we get real deep. If you've made it this far, something in you already knows. This wasn't random. It found you for a reason. And now, let's break it all down, step by step. Trust me, if you're a true chosen one, you'll feel the pull to stay until the very last word. Let's begin. Number 1. They built a funeral, but you came back as fire, and now they're burning in the ashes of their own lies. The dead don't haunt the living. It's the living who are haunted by the truth they buried alive. That truth is you. And now they can't sleep, can't breathe, can't think straight, because your survival wasn't part of the script they sold behind your back. Now imagine this for a second, chosen one. They stood at your lowest point, like vultures circling a story they were desperate to control. They whispered about your mental state, exaggerated your pain, mocked your silence, and branded your stillness as weakness. They didn't just want to see you fall, they needed it. It validated their lies. It made them look right. But guess what? You survived, and that one fact just blew their entire narrative into smoke. Here's what's wild. Psychologists say when someone invests deeply into a false image, especially one they use to manipulate others, watching that lie collapse can cause the same brain response as a traumatic loss. You hear that? Your piece is triggering grief. Not grief for you, but grief for the control they lost. They're crying behind closed doors, not because they miss you, but because the version of you they invented is officially dead. And it's never coming back. You didn't just survive the smear campaign, you obliterated the lie with your silence. You became the proof they never thought you'd live long enough to be. While they were spinning stories, you were rebuilding from the ashes. While they were laughing with the crowd, you were gathering wisdom in the shadows. And now that you've returned, stronger, wiser, colder, clearer, their tongues don't work the same. They know if they open their mouth now, they risk choking on every lie they ever told about you. Let's be real. They thought your disappearance meant defeat, but you weren't disappearing. You were becoming. You were upgrading in private, polishing your soul, restoring your mind, rewiring your energy. And when you came back, the silence wasn't soft. It was surgical. You didn't scream. You didn't post subliminals. You didn't call anyone out. You didn't expose receipts. You just existed. And that alone was enough to ruin their whole illusion. Now they walk into rooms with the weight of truth pressing on their chest like unpaid karma. The same people they gossiped with are looking at you with admiration and wondering, wait, this is the person they said was crazy. You've become their contradiction, their exposed lie. And that's what makes this so unbearable for them. See, when a chosen one rises after being wrongly dragged through the dirt, there's no defense left for the enemy. You didn't climb back with spite. You came back with stillness, with presence, with a quiet strength that unsettles their soul every time your name comes up. Because now they can't explain the new you without confessing what they did to the old you. And that is the corner they trapped themselves into. They thought they could assign your character like a villain in a script. But the universe had other plans. And now every blessing that shows up in your life is a plot twist they weren't prepared for. You're not supposed to be thriving. You're not supposed to be glowing. You're not supposed to be okay. But here you are, more than okay. You're glowing with scars that look like stars. You're moving through life like peace is your revenge. And the best part? You never clapped back. They underestimated your silence. They mistook it for weakness, not realizing silence is what the universe uses before it delivers the loudest storms. And now, every step you take forward is a step they can't stop. They're stuck watching your elevation in real time, knowing they helped fund it with every lie, every betrayal, every moment they tried to break you. It's poetic justice at its finest, and it's unraveling their soul. They bet against you, hoping you'd collapse. Instead, you became the collapse of their illusion. Now they cry behind closed doors, pretending it's allergies, stress, or exhaustion. But the truth is, it's you. Your existence has become the echo of their guilt. And the higher you rise, the louder that echo gets. You didn't return for revenge. You returned to reclaim your name, your peace, your identity, and most of all, your truth. Let them talk, let them spin, let them choke on rumors while you sip from stillness, because now the world is watching, and they can't unsee what they see now. You were never the villain. You were the victim they tried to erase, who came back as the mirror, and nothing is more terrifying to a liar than a walking truth they can't silence. Let that sink in. They thought they wrote your ending, but the pen was never in their hand. They were so busy narrating your downfall, they didn't see you were building a legacy in the rubble. So go ahead, chosen one, keep glowing without a word, because every time you smile, it reminds them they failed. Every success, every healed wound, every peaceful night of sleep you get, it hits them like a slap to the soul. And the best part, you didn't lift a finger. You just lived. And now they can't. Number 2, they thought your glow was just a filter. Now they realize it's fuel from the universe they can't touch. Glow that's earned in the dark can't be dimmed in the light. And now, they're sitting in rooms lit by artificial energy, watching you shine from a fire they could never survive. They thought your light was something they could copy. They thought it was skin deep, pretty face, trendy style, new photo filter. They assumed your glow came from attention, from validation, from cosmetics. But now they see the truth, and it terrifies them. See, at first, they thought your power came from what you wore, the way you walked into a room, the posts, the hair, the confidence. They thought you were just one of those people who had a good image. But they didn't know what they were really looking at. They were staring at the after, not realizing what came before, because this glow, it didn't come from outside in. It came from inside out, and that's the part they can't handle. Imagine this. Someone watching you from a distance, screenshotting your smile, mimicking your energy, trying to wear what you wear or say what you say, hoping they'll get the same reaction you do. But no matter how hard they try, it doesn't land. It never hits the same. Because they don't carry what you carry. They can wear your style, but they can't wear your soul. They can copy your look, but they can't recreate your story, because your glow is cosmic, not cosmetic. And that makes it untouchable. A glow born in survival can't be faked with surface-level attention. And deep down, they know it. That's what's eating them alive. That light they see on you is a frequency. It's vibration. It's energy you earned by walking through hell with your head up. You were buried in shadows, pushed into silence, forgotten. But instead of breaking, you built. Instead of crying for help, you listened to the universe. You healed in places no one clapped for. You rose in seasons where no one even knew you were fighting. And now, that silence turned into presence. That pain turned into radiance. They tried to label you weird, overly sensitive, too deep, too different. They laughed at your silence, dismissed your isolation, called you too much or too intense. But now, those same people are watching the world lean in when you speak. The room stills when you walk in. Conversations change when your name comes up. They thought you were invisible. Now your energy is undeniable. Real power is silent, and it rattles those who thought noise was strength. And now they're frustrated, confused, obsessed. They want to know what you did, what the secret is. How did they get so magnetic? What changed? Why can't I pull people in like that? But the answer is simple. You earned your glow in private. It wasn't a trend. It was transformation. It wasn't a moment. It was momentum built on every breakdown, every betrayal, every lonely night you sat in your own mess and chose to grow anyway. Now they're panicking because they realize something horrifying. Your glow doesn't need them. In fact, it never did. They weren't part of the formula. They weren't part of the journey. They were just noise in the background while you became the signal. And now they're crying behind closed doors because that realization feels like rejection on a soul level. You carry a light that exposes people's shadows, and that's why they fear you. They wanted to outshine you, but you're not even competing in the same galaxy. Your presence is not just visual, it's spiritual. Your energy is not just attractive, it's activating. Imagine this. They walk into a space thinking they've got it all together, but the moment you show up, something shifts. People listen more, feel more, trust more, and the worst part for them, you're not even trying. You're not performing. You're just being. That's what makes you dangerous. That's what makes you unforgettable. They're finally realizing your glow can't be photoshopped. It can't be filtered. It can't be borrowed or bought, because what you carry is the light of someone who healed parts of themselves no one even apologized for. And that kind of light, that's not cute. That's not trendy. That's divine alignment with the universe itself. You don't walk in like you own the room. You walk in like you own yourself. And that changes the atmosphere. Your glow is clarity. Your glow is truth. Your glow is every no you didn't say out loud, every tear you turned into wisdom, every rejection that turned into redirection. They tried to bury you, remember? But you were a seed. They thought you were done growing. They didn't realize your roots were just getting deeper. And now they want a piece of it. They want to know your rituals, your mindset, your routine. They want to dissect your glow like it's a trend they can replicate. But they can't. because what they're trying to mimic was forged in fire, and they don't have the stamina for that heat. They're crying behind closed doors because every time they try to outshine you, they just look like they're trying. And trying never beats truth. You are living proof that energy never lies. People feel it, they sense it, and now even the ones who laughed are quiet. Because the one they dismissed became the one they can't stop watching. They wanted applause, you wanted alignment. They wanted fame, you wanted healing. They wanted image, you became impact. And that's the difference. That's why you shine differently. Let them cry, let them compare, let them chase trends while you keep growing in silence. Because the truth is, chosen one, your glow is not up for sale. It was never built for validation. It was born from liberation. And every single time they try to compete with something the universe gave you for free, they will lose. Every single time. So hold your head high, keep glowing without explanation, because they finally get it now. You weren't made to blend in. You were made to blind the fake with truth they can't copy. And the realist flex, they're crying, not because you won, but because you didn't need them to. Not then, not now, not ever. Number 3, they bet on your collapse, but you came back as fire. They weren't waiting for your victory. They were praying for your collapse. Now they're choking on the silence of your success. Now imagine this for a moment. Chosen one, you're climbing a mountain, bleeding, alone, cold, and instead of helping hands or warm encouragement from the crowd, you hear whispers, laughter, wagers being made, not on whether you'll reach the top, but on which cliff you'll fall from first. That's what they were doing while you were breaking in private, betting on your breakdown, smirking at your silence, spinning your isolation into a tragedy they thought would confirm everything they said behind your back. But here's the part they didn't calculate for. You weren't breaking down, you were breaking open into something they couldn't study, decode, or sabotage, because true transformation doesn't happen in the light. It happens in the dark, when no one is clapping, when your cries echo off walls that hold no sympathy, and when the only one who believes in you is you. You know why they're crying behind closed doors now? Because the very silence they celebrated as your ending was your beginning. While they refreshed their feeds waiting for your downfall, you were forging a comeback so powerful it didn't even need an announcement. You didn't fall. You evolved. You didn't lose it. You located your essence. And now, you walk into rooms with a peace so loud it makes their chaos feel cheap. They thought your absence meant defeat, but it was construction. You were building spiritual muscle in places they don't even have the emotional range to understand. They couldn't survive your sleepless nights, your inner demons, your quiet prayers to the universe, or the way you forgave people who never even asked. That glow on your face now, that calm in your energy, that's survival without scars. That's grace with grit. Quote this in your soul. Let them wait for your downfall while you design your uprising. They can't replicate what you've become because their energy never touched the depths that refined you. You weren't just tested, you were tempered, like steel, heated, folded, hammered, until nothing weak remained. And now they're left behind with the same empty words they once used against you. Meanwhile, you're not even looking back, because real breakthrough doesn't need an audience. It just leaves a shockwave. They thought you'd break, but it was them who cracked the moment they saw you rise. Now the roles have reversed, and they're stuck in the silence, watching someone they thought was done dominate in ways they'll never recover from. Number 4, their conscience woke up swinging, and it's not letting them sleep. You can't outrun what you did to someone who was sent to survive you. Something just cracked open in their mind, and not gently. This wasn't a slow revelation or a soft whisper of regret. No, this was a psychological collision, a truth bomb that didn't knock politely. It detonated. Their ego was the first to hit the floor, because no amount of denial, distraction, or spiritual bypassing could save them from what just hit their chest like a freight train. They thought they buried it, thought time would dissolve the guilt, thought moving on without apology was power. But the universe never forgets energy. It simply stores the charge and waits for the right moment to light the fuse. And that fuse just hit the flame. Now their mind is crawling with memories they tried to edit out, conversations they twisted, moments they gaslit, boundaries they broke and crossed without hesitation, every lie, every manipulation, every cold silence they weaponized to punish your truth. It's all rushing back now, and it's not subtle. Have you ever seen someone haunted by their own conscience? You'll know it by the way their mood shifts out of nowhere, the way they startle when your name is mentioned, the way they flinch in silence. The body keeps score, and right now, their soul is paying the debt. Regret doesn't knock. It kicks the damn door in when you least expect it. You didn't even have to do anything. That's the wildest part. You just healed, you just glowed, you just moved on, and that was enough to trigger a psychological landslide, because the version of you they betrayed was never meant to disappear. It was meant to evolve, and you did, and now you are the mirror they can't look away from. Imagine this. They're sitting in a room full of people, laughing, pretending life is great. But then a quiet thought creeps in like a slow leak. You were wrong. You hurt someone who actually had a good heart. That thought turns into a tightness in the chest. That tightness turns into insomnia. That insomnia turns into isolation. And soon, silence becomes the loudest scream in their head. Karma doesn't seek revenge. It hands you the mirror you once shattered in someone else's hands. And make no mistake, this isn't some fluffy wave of remorse. This is consequence in full technicolor. Relationships are cracking, friends are turning distant, jobs are unstable, nothing feels right anymore. Because what they did to you, it's echoing back in every corner of their life. They're watching doors close without explanation. They're watching joy evaporate. Peace is now a luxury they can't afford. Why? Because the universe isn't punishing them, it's educating them. You were the lesson, the one they misjudged, the one they tried to diminish. And now, every day is a silent class in humility. Their soul knows it. Their energy is weighed down by the mess they made, and there's no filter strong enough to hide that level of spiritual exposure. You can't sleep peacefully in a bed built on betrayal. They're crying behind closed doors, not because you're glowing, but because they know why they're no longer allowed to glow. The universe stripped their illusions, their excuses, their fake superiority, all gone. And what's left is the raw reality. They hurt someone they were supposed to honor, and now they don't even recognize themselves in the mirror. You ever wonder why they suddenly pulled back? Why they ghosted without cause? Why they went quiet while watching you grow? It's not peace, it's punishment. It's the awkward silence of someone being dragged to court by their own conscience. So if you're asking, do they regret it? The answer is yes, but it's deeper than regret. It's a soul-level reckoning. They don't just remember what they did. They feel it now, in their bones, in their breath, in the way life just feels off. And this is just the beginning, because the universe doesn't always clap back with drama. Sometimes it lets your enemies sit in the same silence they once celebrated when you were suffering. But this time, that silence is echoing with guilt, and that guilt is loud enough to haunt them forever. Number 5. They're crying because you didn't choose revenge, you chose peace, and that's what destroyed them. Peace is the loudest revenge you'll ever serve to someone who expected you to stay broken. They thought they knew your next move. They thought pain would turn you vengeful, that betrayal would birth bitterness, that you'd become obsessed with making them feel what they made you feel. But that's where their illusion broke, because you didn't reach for revenge, you reached for peace, and that's the one thing they never prepared for. See, they built entire stories in their mind that you were stuck, seething, sitting in the dark, waiting to settle the score. It made them feel powerful, like they still lived in your head, like they still had access to your energy. That belief was their ego's last blanket. But now, that blanket's gone, and they're freezing in the reality that you let it all go. You didn't scream. You didn't beg for justice. You didn't write long explanations or expose them to the world. You didn't post quotes or cryptic jabs online. You vanished, not in disappearance, but in elevation. While they were preparing for a fight, you were preparing for your future. You don't destroy your enemies by fighting them. You destroy them by starving them of your energy. You stopped reacting. You stopped justifying. You stopped bleeding for people who handed you the knife. And that is what destroyed their control. Because when someone builds their identity on your pain, your healing becomes their death sentence. They're crying now, not because they miss you, but because they never thought you'd survive without their closure, without their apology, without their confession. But you did something more terrifying than revenge. You moved on. You found peace in the middle of chaos. You planted new roots in ground they scorched. And the flowers blooming now? That's your justice. Imagine this. They were ready for war, suited in manipulation, flanked by gossip, waiting for you to show up swinging. But instead of retaliation, they got silence. Not weak silence, but the kind that roars. The kind that says, I don't live in that frequency anymore. That silence, it burns more than anything you could have ever said. You don't owe closure to the hands that tried to bury you alive. You stopped fighting for clarity. You stopped needing the apology. You realized that healing doesn't require their participation, and they realized, far too late, that they were never the storm. You were. But unlike them, you don't destroy. You rebuild. You don't fight for revenge. You fight for peace. They lost access. Not just to your time, not just to your presence, but to the version of you that tolerated emotional warfare in the name of loyalty. That version is gone, dead and buried under all the nights you cried in silence while they smirked in cruelty. They lost the person they thought they could always return to, the one who'd always forgive, always explain, always care. You didn't just block them, you outgrew them, and nothing bruises an ego harder than realizing they're no longer needed. Not for love, not for closure, not for validation. To someone addicted to your energy, your peace is their poison. They're watching now, watching your name echo in rooms they swore you'd never enter, watching your glow spread in places they tried to dim, watching people celebrate the very traits they once mocked. And none of it required revenge, just peace, just distance, just refusal to participate in your own destruction. And the truth is, they're not crying because they love you. They're crying because they can no longer use you, because your silence wasn't retreat, it was reclamation. It was your soul taking its power back. And the battlefield they prepared? It's empty now. You left them to fight with their own reflection. So if you're wondering whether your peace was loud enough, oh, it was. It is. It's the echo in every quiet moment they now dread. The reminder that they couldn't break you, that they were never the fire. You were. And now all they can do is cry while you rise. No revenge, no anger, just peace. And that peace, it's the most violent grace they'll ever witness. Number 6. You became the punishment. They can't escape without saying a single word. You didn't destroy them, you just survived, and that was enough. You didn't need a court, a crowd, or a confession. You didn't need to post your pain, explain your healing, or air out your receipts. All you had to do was keep going, and that alone became their sentence. Because you, just being alive, glowing, breathing peace, they can't handle that. You are the quiet punishment they never saw coming. They can't say it out loud. Pride won't let them. But something inside them shifts when your name surfaces. Not just guilt, it's exposure. Because your evolution shines a light on every lie they told to justify the way they treated you. Every room you enter now feels like a courtroom where their soul gets cross-examined and they don't even know why they're sweating. Your existence is a mirror they can't escape. When people mention you with admiration, it hits their gut like a punch. Not because they hate you, but because they remember. They remember choosing ego when they should have chosen love. They remember playing games when all you offered was sincerity. They remember trying to break what they now wish they could hold. You became the consequence of their cowardice. And now you're soaring, not in revenge, not in pettiness, just in peace, in purpose, in truth. And that glow, it reflects what they are not, that stillness. It reveals the chaos still haunting their every step. You've become the human reminder of everything they mishandled. They see your growth and feel their stagnation. They hear your name and taste the bitterness of their own bad choices. You're not a ghost, but you haunt them. Why? Because your peace screams what words never could. You used to cry. You used to explain yourself. You used to fight to be understood. Not anymore. Now you just exist. No apology, no closure, no reaction. And that silence, it's cutting deeper than anything you could have said. Silence isn't empty. It's full of every truth they refuse to face. They can't tap into your energy anymore, and that void is driving them insane. See, it wasn't just about hurting you. They needed you to stay accessible, to keep reacting, to keep explaining, to stay hooked. But you disconnected. You became unavailable, and nothing punishes a manipulator more than losing their control. Now you're out here building, breathing, becoming, while they're stuck replaying the moment they lost you over and over again. And every time they fake a smile, every time they scroll past your name, every time someone mentions how well you're doing, they flinch. Because they know. Deep down, they know. They fumbled someone real, someone rare, someone who didn't need to get even because the universe did it for them. And now, every win you collect, every ounce of peace you radiate, every layer of growth you embody, it all speaks one truth louder than words. You didn't need revenge. You became the reminder. You became the punishment. And there's no one doing that to them. It's just you. Number 7. Number 7. They tried to curse you with their mouth and now can't stop talking about you. They thought their words had power over your path, that by whispering venom behind closed doors, they could poison your potential. They gathered in shadows, convinced that their gossip would spread like wildfire, burning bridges you hadn't even walked across yet. At first, it was mockery, coated in false confidence. They called you names, twisted your story, and laughed like the universe was in on the joke. But the only ones laughing now are speechless. Because somewhere along the way, those curses boomeranged. The same mouths that tried to bury you are now repeating your name more than ever. Not in praise, not in peace, but in panic. Because you didn't fall, you didn't break, you didn't vanish like they predicted. You rose, and now they're stuck in the echo of their own words, haunted by the sound of your name they can't stop saying. They tried to stain your name, but the ink didn't stick. It turned into fuel. The lies became fertilizer. The rumors, soil for your roots. Every curse they launched came back tenfold, not on your spirit, but on their own stability. Now, every time they open their mouth, your name slips out. Not with power, but with confusion. How? How are you still rising? How are you still glowing? How is your name being spoken in rooms they tried to lock you out of? They never meant to build your legend, but that's exactly what they did. They obsessed over your downfall and ended up manifesting your rise. That spiritual irony at its finest. They thought their voice could destroy you. Instead, it immortalized you. And here's the part they'll never admit. They're not inspired, they're exposed, because their conscience can't rest. They try to move on, but you're always there. In the jokes they no longer find funny, in the stories they keep retelling, in the blessings you keep collecting. Your presence is louder now, even in your silence. You're not in their lives, but you live in their awareness. Rent-free, permanent, undeniable. The curse didn't stick, but you did. And every time they try to silence your name, it only echoes louder, because you became something they never intended, legendary. Number 8. Number 8, they realized too late that you were the blueprint, not the backup. They always saw you as temporary, someone to lean on in tough times, someone to use when things got shaky, but never someone to build with. In their eyes, you were just a stepping stone, a placeholder, a bridge they planned to cross and burn without looking back. But now, they're standing in the ashes, realizing you were never the spare part. You were the engine. You were never the backup. You were the blueprint, the original design, the reason everything held together when nothing else made sense. Your energy was the unspoken order in their chaos. Your mind brought direction. Your presence gave purpose. But they were blind to it, drunk on ego, convinced someone else could replace you easily. So they tried. They moved on, fast, loud, careless. They called you replaceable while searching for a version of you they'd never find again. But now they're seeing it clearly. Nothing works. The people they brought in don't connect like you, don't think like you, don't care like you. The glue is gone and everything's falling apart. Their new circle doesn't click. Their plans keep stalling. The energy feels cold, disconnected, hollow. Because what they built was never about the bricks. It was about the architect. You were the architect, the one with the vision, the heart, the hands that held it all together. They didn't just lose a person. They lost the blueprint that held value no one else could replicate. And here's the sting. They can't go back. You've leveled up. You've moved past the chapter where you had to prove your worth. You don't fit into their broken structure anymore. They made sure of that the day they treated you like an option. You were never the option. You were the only one who could have made it work. Now, every failed attempt to replace you is a reminder. They didn't just throw away a connection, they threw away alignment. They traded the source for a copy, the masterpiece for a rough draft. And that regret isn't just painful, it's permanent. You weren't the plan B. You were the vision, the model, the original formula for success they thought they could recreate. But what they didn't know is, once the blueprint leaves, the structure never stands the same again. Number 9. They were hooked on your struggle, not your strength. They didn't love you. They loved your suffering. They didn't cheer for your power. They fed off your pain. It sounds cruel, but it's the truth most people don't want to admit. Some people don't feel important unless you're falling apart. Your confusion made them feel wise. Your breakdowns gave them a platform. Your low moments made them feel tall. They were never addicted to your light. They were addicted to your darkness. Every time you stumbled, they were there, not to lift you, but to watch. They masked it as concern. They used kind words. They offered help. But the help came with chains, judgment, and ego. Because as long as you were struggling, they had a role. They got to be the rescuer, the fixer, the one who looked like they had it all together. They liked you when you were small, soft, uncertain, because then they felt big. Your vulnerability gave them a twisted sense of superiority. They didn't celebrate your wins. They studied your wounds. They watched you like a science project, measuring your pain, analyzing your mistakes, calculating how far they could push before you broke. But something shifted. You stopped needing them. You stopped breaking. You started healing, quietly, powerfully, and fully. You found your inner compass, and suddenly their words didn't carry the same weight. You started rising, and with every inch you climbed, their illusion cracked. Because without your pain, they had no power. Now your strength is too loud for their insecurities to bear. Your peace is too steady for their chaos to disturb. You're no longer the broken bird they could rescue. You're the eagle soaring too high to be caught. And that terrifies them. They're crying, not because you hurt them, but because they lost the version of you that made them feel powerful. They can't fix what isn't broken. They can't control someone who's whole. And now they're stuck in the silence of their own emptiness. You see, your glow now exposes their shadows. Your independence exposes their manipulation. Your healing reveals their dysfunction. And your strength? It made them irrelevant. They were never truly there for you. They were there for your struggle. And now that you're strong, they've got nothing left to feed on. Number 10. Number 11. Your healing destroyed their whole act. Your healing didn't just change you. It collapsed an entire performance that was never about truth. It was about control. You see, they weren't just watching you suffer. They were acting around it, playing roles, pretending, shaping their identity around your brokenness like it was a stage they were born to stand on. Some cast themselves as the hero, the one who never gave up on you. Others claimed the victim role, the one hurt by your chaos. And some posed as wise mentors, using your pain as proof of their superiority. But the truth? Every line, every costume, every dramatic pause in their performance depended on one thing: you staying broken. Your struggle gave them a script. Your dysfunction gave them a spotlight. As long as you needed fixing, they could keep their crown. As long as you were unstable, they could keep control. You were the scapegoat, the excuse, the emotional punching bag, and they rehearsed that story over and over until they believed it. But then something happened. You healed. And the whole theater collapsed. Because your growth didn't just elevate you, it exposed them. Your peace rewrote the story. Your clarity shattered the illusion. You stopped reacting, stopped explaining, stopped begging. You outgrew the chaos. And suddenly, their roles didn't make sense anymore. The hero now looks manipulative. The victim now seems dramatic. The advisor now sounds condescending. because the damaged version of you they depended on no longer exists. And without your pain to justify their control, they're scrambling in confusion. No more pity to milk, no more chaos to clean up, no more gossip to spread. You closed the curtain mid-performance, and they're left standing on stage with no lines to say, just silence and shame. They didn't expect this. They never imagined you'd find yourself, reclaim your identity, and rise without them. And now, in the ruins of that fake narrative, they're grieving the power they lost when you finally got free. Your healing wasn't soft, it was disruptive. It didn't whisper, it roared. It didn't beg for understanding, it demanded truth. And now, they're standing in the wreckage of their own lies, watching the real you glow in a world that no longer needs their performance. Number 11. Number 13. They're not crying over you, they're mourning who they'll never become. Let's make something clear. Those tears aren't about you. They're not crying because you're gone. They're crying because your evolution has become a brutal mirror, one they can't avoid, one that shows them, in high definition, exactly who they will never be. At first glance, it might look like they miss you, regret, nostalgia, a few what-if stares into the ceiling late at night. But if you look closer, what's really unraveling isn't love, it's identity collapse. Because you didn't just walk away, you ascended. And that ascent became a quiet war against every illusion they built about themselves. You see, they wore confidence like a costume. They pretended to be spiritual, deep, unbothered. They mimicked power. They rehearsed strength. But when you started living what they only performed, the game fell apart. You became the standard. Your grace under fire burned their facade. Your silence in chaos embarrassed their gossip. Your steady rise, without bitterness, without shortcuts, showed a kind of spiritual stamina they never had the guts to cultivate. You became a living contradiction to their entire ego. You stayed kind when they would have turned cruel. You stood in truth when they would have folded under image. You kept your dignity when they would have begged, lied, or manipulated. And that haunts them, because they realize now it's not that they lost someone great, it's that they never were that great to begin with. They couldn't have walked your path. They wouldn't have survived your storms. They didn't have the soul depth, the inner compass, or the sacred grit. They're not crying over your absence. They're mourning the mask they wore while you were rising. That mask cracked the moment you stopped playing small. The moment you owned your power, they saw their reflection, and it was hollow. Everything they tried to fake, you became for real. And now the gap is unbearable. This isn't jealousy, it's spiritual humiliation. They're breaking not because they want you back, but because standing beside you made them feel like they were someone. Now, without you, they're left to confront the raw truth. You were never just someone they knew. You were the reminder of everything they were pretending to be. And now that the act is over, they're falling apart in silence. And so, after everything they did to curse you, replace you, mock you, and feed off your struggle, what's left now is silence, regret, and a haunting truth. You were always the blueprint, the root, the unstoppable force they never saw coming. Your glow didn't just survive, it exposed. Your healing didn't just free you, it dismantled them. And now, the story is no longer about what they did to you, but what they lost when you finally rose. If this spoke to your soul, like this video, subscribe for more, and drop number 777 in the comments if you're walking in your power now. Share this with someone chosen.